Hello, Fallen Dragonite here. Been a while since I've done a Let's Paint video, and today I have a little special treat for you all. I will be painting the Paladin Warlord class mecha from Ignition Core Games. They're a new company that recently just went live this year. In fact, I believe a lot of their miniatures just went on sale in November. And I really wanted to get my hands on one of these, and eventually I was able to purchase a Paladin class mech for painting. Now then, there is one thing that needs to be noted, is that this set does come with a pilot, and there's two different versions of the pilot. I picked up the standard female pilot, because I have plans for a customization for this a little later. See, it has a very Titanfall-esque sculpt to it, which I really do like. There is also a male version too, but I don't have that. You have to specify exactly if you want the male or female version. It's also worth mentioning that there are different parts for these mechs. For example, I have the Icarus flight pack on this, but there's also a missile rack that you can have instead of the flight pack. Which, of course, with the flight pack, you also get this little rocket launcher for shoulder. And then, of course, there's the weapon. I got the beam rifle. But you can also get a minigun with a gun blade on it. Now then, this is the standard release, which means you have to choose one or the other pilot. But there is also another pilot miniature, which is only available for pre-order with the Zero Edition, which is right here called the Zero Armor. I didn't glue the ponytail on yet or done much. I also have a few customization plans for this, but as you can see, it's just a faux Zero Suit Samus. Again, this was only available for pre-order. What happened was I was on the Chibi Gamers Facebook page asking if anyone had gotten the Zero set and asking if anyone would sell me their Zero Armor mini. And Will, the owner of Ignition Core, basically told me, hey, look, if you make an order on my site, I will throw in the pre-order miniature for free. And yeah, he's a really nice guy. I mean, this is actually my third order from him. I've actually ordered two of his infantry sets too. One from the Paladin faction, which is where this mech comes from, and one from the Oni faction, which just went on sale this week. I actually was able to pre-order it before they even went live. And then, of course, he's also working on his Valkyrie faction, which is going to be a synthetic all-female army based off, of course, the mythical Valkyries. And of course, it really has a Titanfall feel to it. I mean, not just these giant piloted mechs, but there's also the large AI mechs as well. There's the infantry units with different weapons. The Paladins have miniguns. The Oni infantry have grenade launchers, and there is male and female sculpts for both. And then, of course, each faction has their own dropship. Now then, I did briefly have this on camera, but I was getting caught up in all of this and I didn't show you. I have a 3D printed base that was included with the mini. Most of the other minis will just have the standard generic base, but I really like this 3D printed base because you can kind of see the print lines, and it's hard to see on camera, I think. I'm trying to look through the viewfinder, but it does say Ignition Core 70mm printed right on the base. I am not going to paint over this. I'm going to leave this as is because I just really like it. Of course, it's a little rough on the edges because I tried to sand the bottom because it was uneven. And then the edges got a little uneven, so I tried to sand the edges, and yeah, that's my fault. Anyway, let's actually talk about what we're doing here, painting. As you can see, I already have a black base coat on all the parts. which I did with this surface primer. Normally this is for airbrushes, but you can just paint this on yourself. Unfortunately, this is kind of the only option I have right now because my space heater is broken, so I can't use spray primer like I used to. I have to use a brush on because it's winter, it's cold. You're really not supposed to be using spray paints outside in this weather. But yeah, if you have the ability to have a space heater, or if you're in a warmer climate, it would be recommended to use a spray primer. But if you're in colder weather like me, you're going to have to use brush-on primer this time of year, or use a space heater. Anyway, this black base coat is actually going to be very nice for our first step of painting, and that is taking a base gray, and we're going to dry brush the entirety of the mech to give it a nice weathering look. This is just a light dry brush. We don't want to go too heavy. We just want to make sure we pop out the details and get all of that nice sculpted detail to pop out nicely and give it a nice weathering effect too. Anyway, I'm going to do that for all the pieces, and we'll go to the next step after I'm done. Okay, we're done with the dry brushing, and now we have that nice weathered metal look on it, as well as on all the other pieces as well. And that glossy black underneath actually still gives it a bit of a metallic sense to it, but not a great deal of metallic, but just enough to actually get by with the details we're trying to pick out here. Now then, you're probably wondering what the color scheme we're going for here is, but here's the thing. The original Paladin mech, according to the website, is white with blue accents and some hints of gold and red. In other words, your basic Gundam colors. This is not exactly what I'm planning to do here. I'm actually planning a little bit of a different color scheme. I'm going to be using a more darker English navy color and making that the more primary color, and then accenting it with a bit of white and gold with only like a little speckles of red here and there. Trying to make it look as less of a Gundam as possible. So I'm going to carefully paint in some blue detail on the primary pieces. I'm going to leave the faceplate white, but for the most part the armor will be blue. And I'll put in some gold accent for trim. And of course, the missile pods will have some red hidden. So once I'm done with the blue, I'll show you what areas I'm going to paint with white after I'm done there. Okay, it might be a little hard to show on camera, but we do have the dark blue accents all on the parts here. So now we're going to go with some titanium white to fill out the rest. So we're going to take our brush, dip it slightly, and carefully apply it around the mouth, some of the accents here, areas on the thighs, areas on the wings, some of the bicep. Now then, you might notice there's a panel line right here on his mouth plate. when you're doing panel lines, it's very tedious, but you have to be very careful not to paint inside the line. Try to give enough space so that the panel line is not covered by paint. Anyway, when we're done with the white, we'll go on to the next color. Okay, we got all the white on there, and as you can see, I gave quite a bit of space between the panel lines, giving it almost a cel-shaded look to it, as well as all the other pieces as well. The rifle, especially, just those little hits of white just really make it pop. But now we need to add a little bit more detail to those mechanical bits. So we're going to take our gray again, and we're going to pick out just little areas like right here, and a few other areas like the VTOL fans, some of the mechanical bits on his legs, a few bits on the rifle and such, just to bring out a little extra detail in the parts. Okay, you can see, got the little hits of gray there, and there in the torso, a bit more on the gun, which makes it more detailed. Just a hit on the bottom of the shield, and right there on the rocket launcher. So next we are going to take some metallic gold and trim off some more of the little tiny details. These bits here, these panels right here, band here in the wrist, right here, right here, right here, that little band right there, little bit right there in the leg, little bit right there in the horn, some aspects of the shield here and here, and that's basically where we're going to go with the gold. And of course this is a shiny metallic gold. So once we're done with the gold, we'll go to the next color. Okay, now we got those gold accents on there, and that's really looking nice. That's really coming together now. Even the little knuckles I forgot to point out, as well as the little brow area up there. It's two or three more steps we're going to have to do. And of course the first one is just a little hit of red. Just two areas. We're going to do, of course, the missiles inside the missile launcher. We're also going to do the head crest in red. Just light covering of red, just to break it up a little bit. After we're done with the red, we'll go to the next color. Okay, we got the red on, and I just realized he kind of looks like Speedy Cerviche, if you remember Samurai Pizza Cats. Okay, you may also notice I put some green metallic details as well in the eyes, the chest, as well as the rifle. That's because this is a trick I saw online from someone who also painted one of these, and they used gemstone paint to try to get a faux glowing effect. So I'm going to take these metallic bits and put on a bit of gemstone paint. I'm using blue on green to try to get a kind of an aqua or a seafoam color. It's going to take a few coats, and there's also a lot of tiny little areas I have to get, but hopefully by the time I'm done, it will give it a nice glowing effect on all the metallic parts with the gemstone paint. And when I'm done, I'll try to find a way to varnish this, because this is actually the last step of the painting process. So basically, after the gemstone paint, I have to figure out how to varnish this in order to make sure that the paint doesn't scratch off, and then glue the parts together. And we'll take a look at the final product. And we are done. I got this thing clear coated and glued together. See, it looks very nice, all assembled as it is. Having more of a static standing pose because there's not really much way to move the legs, and this arm right here is static. You can't really move it around. This arm, I have to glue on the cannon glue on, the rocket and the shield all have to be glued on. So those are the only things I actually have control over what the pose is. Anyway, in order to clear coat this thing, I had to do a little bit of a riskier procedure. It's something I've seen online, but it's not really recommended just due to the risk involved. Basically, what you had to do was make sure that everything was at room temperature, sprayed it outside, and then immediately brought it back in. It made sure it was in a room that was well ventilated until it completely dried. So unless you plan to not be in the room for a few hours on end and make sure that there's a fan running and the windows open, it's not recommended to do. However, let's compare this to some other mechs that I have on hand. I have here the Midnight Heroes Bombard. A little bit shorter than the Paladin mech here. And I got a Gundam Convergence Mini. You can get these at pretty much any collectibles store. I mean, you can get these at Barnes & Noble if you wanted to. Also, just a little smaller than the Paladin mech. Regardless, I would recommend trying to pick this up. It is a very nice looking piece of kit. Especially if you're able to get the panel lining properly, because again, you're supposed to paint the portions on. You're not supposed to paint the panel lines. You're supposed to paint the armor bits, leaving just enough room between the panel lines as I showed you during my painting progress. Anyway, I'll try to leave a link in the description where you can get this thing yourself. Oh, yeah, glue's not completely dried, so I felt the arm give a little. So, that's my review of this, and I hope to see you guys again next video. And considering that this is the final day of 2020, hopefully 2021 will be a lot better. See you next year.